So there's a possibility I might make numerous videos today. A couple, maybe just this one. I'm not sure. We'll see how this goes. But basically, some things happened today that pissed me the fuck off, and I really need to talk about them. This first one is just absolutely absurd, and it's imperative that this needs to be noticed by people, because this is something that doesn't seem too bad, but it's way more dangerous than you may think. Before I get into it really quickly, I just want to apologize in advance. I still am kind of sick. I've been sick for like a month now, and it sucks. And so I'm sorry if I cough, if I have to clear my throat, if I sound stuffed up at all. I've just been sick for a long time, and I'm not getting over it. But let me set up what exactly happened. So I've talked about in recent videos that my writing teacher, it's just a writing 122 class. It's just a regular class that is learning the basics of writing, although technically, since it's a college class, the more advanced basics of writing, if that even makes sense. So honestly, this shouldn't even come up. Before in that video that I talked about her, I stated that, okay, it's fine that she has a feminist bias. That's perfectly fine. It's fine if it comes up occasionally. As long as she's not trying to throw her beliefs on anyone or say something that's dangerous, I really couldn't care less. Sorry. So what she said that absolutely pissed me off, among many things, this was all within the span of probably 10-15 minutes at most today. So the first thing that she said was talking. So I kind of have to set this up so you understand where this is coming from. We read an article about the movie Avatar, the one like the action movie, where there's like this guy who gets an avatar of the aliens, and he basically joins the aliens to fight off the white people, well, the bad guys who are the white people, and some blacks and so forth. He basically teaches these people, these aliens, how to fight them off, and then eventually joins them near the end. I guarantee you have either seen or heard of the movie if you're listening to this. Now, the article that we read was a really short article on that movie, talking about how it's racist. It's a racist movie. And I'm not going to get into one of the problems that I have with the article, because basically it has to do with being petty, like calling racism where racism isn't even close to existing, shit like that. Which I complain about feminism too, calling oppression where there isn't oppression, and so on and so forth. I don't really have a problem. I'm not going to talk about the problem, is a better way to put it, in this video. But I do stand against that article, even though it really wasn't that big of a deal. But we were talking about how it has racist undertones, and our teacher I could tell, was very for this. She's not only a feminist, but you can tell she's like a social justice warrior. Like, she is full on for every form of supposed social inequalities out there. And so the first thing that she said that pissed me off is that racism has to, this is literally what she said. I don't know if it's exactly word for word, but I'm basically paraphrasing what she said without strawmanning anything. She said, racism, the difference between racism and prejudice is power. Therefore, it is impossible to be racist to white people. That right there is a very dangerous ideology that is potential to be genocidal. If you think about what she is saying. She is saying it's okay, and it's not even possible to be racist, even if you're saying white people are the worst and white people deserve to die. That's not racist in her mind. That is fucked up. The part that pissed me off even more, though, is what she said next. Because of power, it is impossible to be sexist to men, which is essentially transferring the same thing that she said on race to sex. So it's impossible. So someone like me, apparently it's impossible to be racist and sexist to me because I'm a white male, which is utter bullshit. It is absolutely dangerous to think this way. To think you can't be racist or sexist towards a certain group of people. No one is immune to racism, and no one is immune to sexism. Now, there is no systemic sexism for either gender. There is systemic racism, in my opinion, that has to do with like the Black Lives Matter movement. I kind of stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. Theoretically, I don't actually stand with them. I don't protest or anything. But I agree with what's being said with the Black Lives Matter movement. Yes, I can tell there is racism among cops. A racist predisposition among cops towards black people, which is wrong, and that needs to be fixed. But something like white people not being able to be not being able to be racist towards white people is absurd. Absolutely absurd. There is no end to what could be done there, because on the note of it's impossible to be sexist to men. If that was the case, then something like the Kill All Men hashtag, which is literally calling for genocide of an entire sex, that's not sexist. How? How is that not sexist? If men were calling for the systemic rape of women, there would be an outcry, and there would be just this horrible, horrible backlash where there would probably be somehow start World War III or Civil War II in the U.S. just because of how fucked up that is. But Kill All Men is fine. Now, some people try to justify the Kill All Men hashtag by saying, oh, it's just theoretical. No matter how theoretical it is, number one, some feminists, and actually a decent percentage of feminists that supported the Kill All Men movement actually wanted to kill all men, did not think it was theoretical. Number two, even if that is theoretical, that's the same thing as men theoretically saying we should rape all women. You know how fucked up that is? Now, I'm not saying my teacher supported the Kill All Men hashtag. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But what she said leads to so much potential for honest sexism to take place against men, to where we could literally need the MRA movement in order to get equality back. And that's a scary time. Just like I don't want to revert to having to get feminism back. We don't need feminism. Feminism is irrelevant nowadays. It's obsolete. The Amazing Atheist did a video a little while ago on this topic, how feminism basically is obsolete in Western worlds. In the Western world, it is. But I would not want to revert to a time where we needed feminism either. I do not want to revert to a time where women cannot vote, where women actually earn less in the workplace, where women aren't even allowed to have certain jobs, or where overall women are basically our slaves, men's slaves. I would not want to revert to that where we actually need feminism. Just like it is scary to revert to a phase where we need an MRA movement, men's rights activists movement. It's just it pissed me off more than any other. One thing you need to know about me is I'm a quiet person in person. I mean, I'll call your bullshit out like on Twitter or on Skype, but in person, I try to tend to keep to myself simply because I don't want to be teamed up on. as I stated in my video before, quite a few of the girls in my class I can tell are feminists, and I would just get teamed up on, and it would seem like I was losing a debate that I was actually winning logically. So, I mean, I would be okay with a formal debate, but an informal class debate is not my thing. With that being said, I almost stood up in my fucking chair and just went off on her for that statement right then. Both statements, though. Not just the sexism one, the racism one, too. You can be racist towards white people, and you can be sexist towards men. As, who was... It was either Sargon of Akkad or TJ, the Amazing Atheist. I can't remember which one. But they said there is no such thing as reverse sexism. There is only sexism. Sexism applies to either gender. Sexism and racism both apply to whoever identifies with a race and a sex. I mean, I would say if you don't identify as a sex, yeah, maybe it could not apply to you because there isn't a way to systemically oppress someone who doesn't have that gender that is supposedly being oppressed, which they're actually not being oppressed, but whatever, kind of just went on a tangent there. But racism and sexism don't have to do with power. What they have to do with is thinking that one race or sex is better than the other and deserves more power. So, for example, white people, white Southerners typically are more racist. They are racist because they think black people are scum. They think black people are bad, and they think that we should, some, not all, think that we should revert to slave times where black people were slaves. Now, I know I'm kind of generalizing Southerners here. I actually lived in the South for a while. This is not a large amount of the community. I mean, especially the rural areas, and just, decent area. The more wealthy the region, the less likely they are to be racist. It typically is more like the rednecks that are more racist, but they are actually racist. Now, I have also seen and heard the other way. Black people saying that white people should be inferior, and black people saying that black people should own white people. Kind of more of as a revenge. Rather than saying that white people are worse, more just being like revenge, but that is still racism. And by the way, I should have said this earlier, but I'm sorry if at any point I mix up racism and sexism. You understand what I'm saying. Like, black people saying that white people should be enslaved is racism, not sexism. Even if I happen to say sexism, I apologize. But there's no reason why someone should be allowed to say that openly and have that idea be taken seriously. I'm all for free speech. You should be able to say that all you want. You should be able to say whatever the fuck you want. But I'm against people taking that idea seriously. And people could take that idea seriously if it's not considered racism in that context. The same thing goes for sexism. Now, I could rant on about that probably for another 40 minutes if I wanted to, but I need to move on to one, maybe two other things that she said. We'll see. The next thing that she said was after she said those racism and sexism can't be applied to men and white people. After she said that, she moved on to talking to something else, and then we kind of had like a little discussion in the class. And she started talking to one of the groups who was sitting right in front of her. She really interacts with the class. And when she started talking, everybody turned to look, and she basically just said, I mean, even look at the workplace. Oh, no, I know what happened. One kid raised his hand and was like, well, there are times when women have power over men, and she kind of like rolled her eyes and is like, well, kinda, but I'm not talking physically. And he's like, no, well, I mean like in the workplace, like, you know, a woman has a senior position or a CEO position. And she was like, well, yeah, but I mean, even then they're earning 77 cents to every dollar that a man makes. So she is perpetuating the wage gap myth. This is another thing. She goes from saying something that is almost genocidal in implications to perpetuating a myth. Being someone in a instructor position, she's not a professor. She doesn't have a doctorate. She is just an instructor. I don't know what that classifies in terms of education. I have no clue, and I'm not going to assume anything because I don't know. She could be close to a doctorate, or she could just have a bachelor's. I don't know. But basically, someone who teaches at a college a public college should get their information right. You are teaching kids who are wanting to learn, and you're spouting information about a wage gap that doesn't even exist. I mean, the data is right there for you. If you want to look it up, it's on face value. If you look at men's wages versus women's wages in the workforce, yes, the women earn 77 cents for every dollar a man makes. But that does not factor in important criteria to the test. Number one is position. A woman who is working at McDonald's should not be compared to a man that is a CEO of a fucking company. You need to include positions in that, which lowers the wage gap immensely because women have this knack for choosing lower paying degrees. I mean, if you look at the percentage of degrees that women go into, STEM, it's like 8%. 8% is women. 92% is men. It's a male-dominated area. And that's a well-paying area. Women, when you go to college, well, girls or women, when you go to college, go to the fucking high-paying degrees. They are open to you. My girlfriend is a business major, which is a good-paying major. No problem whatsoever. And she has nothing restricting her, even though she's a girl. She has nothing restricting her. She could go into STEM. She could go into engineering. She could go into computer science. She could literally do whatever she wanted. But so many women go into gender studies, and they wonder why they make less. Your choice demonstrates your intelligence because you're expecting not always. Okay, some women choose lower paying degrees and it's perfectly fine. But when you choose a lower paying degree and then complain that women get paid less, you have something wrong with you. I mean, this teacher is not in a good paying job at all. She studied it's called queer studies, which is essentially similar to gender studies. And she is complaining about the wage gap. Well, get a better job, get a better major, and you will see better results. Women just have this knack for choosing lower paying jobs. Even though you have equal opportunity to get them, there is no favorability in degrees whatsoever. I mean, there actually might be favorability for women in gender studies. I don't know. But for STEM, for business, for accounting, for anything like that pays well, you have equal opportunity, go into that. And that is just one of the many criteria that is left out from the test that makes it so the wage gap actually exists. When you factor in all the criteria, the wage gap disappears entirely. It is just gone. There's no reason, no excusable reason for you to be pandering this myth in order to make a point. Yeah, you're a feminist. Sorry, I just hit the mic. I don't know if you could hear that. Yeah, you're a feminist. That does not mean you can lie and perpetuate bullshit. I would respect a feminist. And actually, I do respect some feminists. There are some feminists that do say the wage gap does not exist. And they talk down or bash and tell they are against people perpetuating this wage gap. Those are the feminists I respect with a passion. If you can be a part of the feminist movement and not pander mythical rhetoric and bullshit, then yes, I can respect you. I still don't agree with you, but I can respect you. I cannot respect someone who panders this type of bullshit. Now, this has already been a long video, and I apologize for that. If you're hanging in there, thank you. It means a ton. I'm just really passionate about this stuff, and I have a lot to say. I completely understand if anyone has clicked away from the video. But lastly, she basically... it's kind of hard to describe, but basically she just was kind of saying that women, that men have always had the power, that men even today have the power over women in that sense. Now, this is factually incorrect. I mean, biologically, maybe there are women who are stronger than men, but overall, biologically, men are naturally stronger than women. This is a biological fact. This has nothing to do with sexism. This has nothing to do with prejudice. This has nothing to do with oppression. This is just a biological fact of how when men are born, they have more capability and more natural muscle, too, over women. So you can't really complain about that, fairly anyway. But in terms of society... It just is false. But that's about it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment, rate, and subscribe.